Welcome everyone. My name is Kate Finn. I am the Training and Development Lead with ELB. So I get to work closely with teachers and with Prowise, which I love to do both. That being said, before I hand it over to Camille and her capable hands, I did want to go over a few house cleaning tips and tricks here in that. If you have, to start with, this session will be recorded or is currently being recorded. If you have any questions or comments, we do have a chat box. For those of you who are not familiar with Google Meets, up in the top right hand of your screen, there's a little speech bubble. You can click that chat box and enter your questions and comments there as well. That will be monitored, so we will be going through and answering any questions that happen to pop up during that time. Today we have a very special guest with us. Many of you may know her, those of you who do not. This is Camille Denke. She is out in Redlands, California, or the Redlands Unified School District out in California. So thank you for joining us today. She was Teacher of the Year in 2020, and she is an ELB Prowise Exemplary Teacher. So we are very excited to have her. She is a wealth of knowledge and fantastic. So I'm just going to stop talking and I'm going to turn it right on over to you, Camille.
All right, well, thank you. So we'll go ahead. I will share what I have for you guys, get you kind of going through Prowise, of course, so I can walk you through a Prowise demo on Prowise, essentially. So I'm going to go ahead and share my entire screen to you all. You guys will see it soon. Pop through. And I'm going to give you just a little info at the start about what it is that I to kind of be so inspiring about Prowise. The reason why I feel is something that is worth your time right now. I know we all feel like we have plenty to do, and taking on one more thing right now may not be what you think you'd like to do, but I'm going to hopefully share some tips with you that inspire you to maybe try it here and there. It is in no way a replacement for Google. I mean, I'd be crazy if I tried to do that. I use Google Classroom all the time. I love it. I'm always creating things in Google, but there is a place for Prowise where I'm just really, really impressed with what it can do as opposed to some of the tools that are maybe less intuitive for our little ones, elementary age kids especially. So looks like when I joined Meet, my webinar got stuck here, so we'll let it join for just a second. But in the meantime, take a look at these pictures. These are pictures that I've taken either in the classroom or have been sent to me through remote learning. And I think these pictures sum up part of the reason why I am so inspired by Prowise. These are kids learning at home through remote learning, just like many of our students are right now. And they're happy, they're engaged, they were excited enough to show their parents what they'd done, listen to my instructions and say, when you're done with this and you're proud of yourself, have your parents send me a picture. And then they did. So for kindergartners to be able to follow through with all of that, you know it's something that they really enjoyed. So 2 different examples of things that they did at home. Some of the other things I've included here are some examples of things that I have done, ways that I've used Prowise in the classroom. And I am, of course, eager to get back and do that at some point. But in the meantime, I'm just going to take a look at these pictures and remember all those fond memories of kids working together, collaborating, being engaged, and really just finding a love for learning. And there's something about Prowise that just seems to bring out the best in all kids. So first thing I like to say is, and all of you are here, so hopefully you know this, Prowise Presenter is 100% free. And that's one of the reasons why I'm often posting it on Instagram or Twitter, because I feel like it's something that I can absolutely get behind because of the benefits of the tool, the tools that are embedded within, but also because there is really nothing to hinder you. It's free. Give it a try. Your time, of course, would be the one thing. And I will warn you, it can take your time if you fall into the rabbit hole of creating. But I'm going to give you some tips on that a little bit later. But just remember, 100% free for you or for families. No educator email needed. It is just 100% free for all. So I'm going to start right now with you guys, just giving you a quick little tutorial on if you'd like to do split screen. Many people do this already, so if you know this already, no worries. But if you haven't seen these tricks, if you work on a Chromebook, you can do the Alt and then these little bracket keys at the same time, and that will give you a split screen. So you can see your Meet, you can see me talking, see what I'm covering, but you can also try things on your computer later on too. At some point, we will be trying something, so you may want to do that. If you're on a Mac, you just push that little green button and it does tile window. If you are on a Windows device, you press the Windows key and those arrows and it will shift your screen one way or the other. And we'll go ahead and hopefully, there we go. And so I've talked to you a little bit about the reasons why I like Prowise and why I use it, but I also want to cover a little bit more about the what and the why. Here are some other examples of my students, actual students this year, last year, and 2 years ago, using Prowise in the classroom at home. This student has a physical condition, meaning where she was born with very, very short arms. She's missing a portion of her arm. And so we were able to use a stylus, and with the full panel, she was able to actually physically manipulate anything that I created. So it was a way that there was no drag and drop. She just touched it and it would slide and made it very user-friendly for her. All these other kiddos, you can see things that they're doing at home, but then also the collaboration that they're doing through Proconnect. Moving on to a little bit more about the why. I think it's really important to think about what is our why, not the why for kids, but what is our why? What are we thinking about? What is our goal when we consider, okay, we have synchronous learning, we have asynchronous learning. What is your objective? Is your objective that you are looking for perfection in every slide that is submitted into Google Classroom and that everything has to be graded? Or are you looking for mastery? Are you looking for practice? Are you hoping that students have a chance to practice something to develop that concept mastery? And is it okay for students to learn through the process? Do they really have to have 100% correct every time they try something? Or should we be applauding them for pushing through, persisting at something that might be challenging, but gives them an opportunity to try it again and again? And if you're feeling like, okay, that's kind of what I'm thinking, all of this grading, every single item needs to be graded and turned in, and I have to have a grade for it, and then they feel like I didn't check it if I don't grade it, maybe Prowise is the answer for you for some things. But I do think it's good to really think, are our students dreading digital activities because they know there's a burden to them? They have to complete all 15 slides. They have to complete every single slide in the way that you showed it, or they're going to lose points. Or are we looking at, wow, you practiced for 15 minutes and look at how your test scores have improved, or look at what you can now do with your reading because of that. Or wow, you have your math facts down. I don't know where that came from, but I am so impressed. So that's kind of where I want you as a teacher to think, what is your why? And now let's move a little bit more into our how. So when I think about Prowise, I think about it in two separate ways. There's one way to build Prowise presentations where it's pre-planned. It is very focused. It's like an anchor chart, a digital anchor chart where you are really focused on it for the purpose of direct instruction. But then there are also times where you might want to do it with links. Everything you can see, I'm clicking on these arrows. You can do a lot with links to where they get a flipped learning experience. So maybe they click on something and it takes them to in one direction, and then they get to go somewhere else, and they get to follow more of a flipped learning experience without you guiding them, more self-led. There are also features like Proconnect, Collaborate, and ProQuiz embedded within the software, which really gives you an opportunity to connect with students in real time, even if you're doing remote learning. But then there's that spontaneous element. And with Prowise, we have a digital whiteboard, essentially. There are tools for instruction, and then there's also Proconnect. Now note, Proconnect's on both sides, because although you can absolutely be pre-planned with Proconnect, you can also generate a Proconnect code and say, okay, spontaneously, we're going to do Proconnect right now. And I also want you to see that they both work for synchronous and asynchronous instruction. So at this point, I'm going to show you some pictures of my workspace. This is where I am right now. I'm seated at that desk. Note the dog at the bottom here. That's kind of where she lives, somewhere there or at my feet. So I am intentionally including this slide for you because I want you to think about this space. A couple of years ago, this space did not exist in our house. And my husband had this grand plan of building a floor across our 2-story formal space and building a loft for our kids for Legos and things like that. And it seemed like a good idea. And so I was like, sure, why not? Our kids will love the space. We'll like the space. Well, little did I know we would actually be living in this space all the time through distance learning. And it's where I now spend every single day, many hours a day. You can see, if you look back here, one of my kiddos is sitting back there. That's where he works all day. And so this has become a space where we spend a lot of time. This is a great example of an intentional space. It's something that took a lot of planning. It took a lot of working through all sorts of details with the city to get it permitted, to make sure that the architectural drawings were sound. It took time to build it in the right way. You don't just say, I want this magical loft space and poof, it happens. You really have to be intentional about the way that you design it. And when I think about Prowise, that's how Prowise can be. Now, it's not how it always is, it's how it can be. But the other thing I want you to think about is, there are things in this room that I look at, and maybe like the sign behind me. This was an impulse buy at TJ Maxx, just because I walked in and I saw it and I thought, yes, I believe in that. I like that. I need that. There was no thought to it other than I want that and I need it and I know the exact place it's going to go. And I think there are other times where when you're planning Prowise, that's exactly how it is. It's completely spontaneous. You have that moment with your students and you think, okay, somebody just asked a question and I know exactly what tool I need to use in Prowise. And you jump right in. And it doesn't mean it was pre-planned. It doesn't mean you put any effort in ahead of time. It did not take any of your prep time in the afternoons to put it together. You just walked into TJ Maxx and you're like, that one, I need it. Or you go on to Prowise and you think that tool, that is what we need for fractions today. Or that tool, that's how we're going to work on blending short vowel sounds in our small group instruction time. So I think this is a good analogy for me, at least, to see that there are times where we can spend a lot of time, maybe even years, working on something and developing things. And there are other times where we just spontaneously create it or buy it and it works. And don't be afraid of the spontaneous. So moving on with more of that intentional lesson design, I want to kind of show you the building blocks of sorts of how I would put together an intentional lesson design. So if I'm doing that big project and I'm thinking, I really want this to work a certain way, you really need to think about how you want it to work. And I would begin with selecting a background, because then everything that you put on top of it, when you layer on top, you'll know what it looks like with that background. The next step that I would work on with my intentional lesson design, whoops, I think I just went too far, one more back, would be to think about what building blocks I'd like to use. Building blocks are a tool within Prowise Presenter, and there are many, many benefits to building blocks. You'll see that you can have right answer, you can go around a picture and tell the students if they have a right answer. So then you have that self-checking aspect to where students are working on something, and yes, it matters, and yes, you can give them a grade, but it's more about the process of them learning it and not so much did they check off all the boxes so that you can give them the grade that they're trying to earn. It's more of did they learn through the process of what they were doing. You also have options of covering surfaces, a variety of informative or interactive eyes. You'll see I have this on every page, and you can click on this and it will give you additional information if that's been added. Moving along, we'll take a look at symbols. I like to have a symbol for a link. Here I'm using the arrow, but I think it's really important to make sure that your students, if you're doing a linked presentation like this, understand what symbol you use. Now, I got fancy on this just for you all so that you could see different ways that you can search for cute arrows and you can use a cute arrow as your link. But typically I use the Prowise presentation presenter illustrations, because that way when my students see one of these blue arrows, they always know what to do with it. They know that the purpose of this arrow is to get them to the next place. And sometimes I'll give them a variety of arrows so they know they could go a variety of directions. It's not just one. They can select an arrow and decide which way they want to work through something. And finally, we have tools. The tools in Prowise are what sells it for me. I mean, I know I've talked about the other things and I like all of them, but it's the tools that are going to save you time. If you can spend a little time up front getting familiar with the tools and thinking, maybe make a list of the ones that you're sure that would benefit you for the standards you teach, it will save you time in the long run. Because what's great about these tools is there's no development that you need to do. If you want to use an abacus or a reckon rec, you click on it and it's ready to go. If you want to do multiplication tables, you click on it and it's ready to go. There is absolutely no preparation you'd need to do for that. That would be one of your spontaneous activities or options. Now, here's an example of using one of those tools that could support content. And then you can put this tool out, and all I did was put the tool in, and then I was able to drag these fraction bars, and then students could actually write in order to show their thinking. Then they could save this and they could send it to you so you could see their work. And, oh, there we go. So I'm going to stop right now for a second and just give you a few tips that I think are really, really important to make sure you know. The number one tip I would say is forget everything you know about Google. Prowise does not save itself. It does not save your work. If you do not save, you will lose. And that is something I've learned the hard way far too many times. So please, if there's one thing you get from this, if you use Prowise at all, please remember to save often. I would say every time you complete any part of one of your slides, one of your pages, please make sure you click on save, because otherwise you run the risk of losing all of your time and your work. But here's the perk to this. As much as that may sound like, oh man, we're going back to Microsoft Word, all the stuff, web stuff that they do now. Here's the benefit. Let's say that you use a presentation that you made for your small group, and then you have another small group that will benefit from the same presentation. I close my presentation and I reopen it. There's no undo. There's no, oh, I have to delete all the work that they did. I simply close the presentation, reopen it, and it's ready for my next group. So I would say that that's kind of the perk to Prowise Presenter not saving for you, not doing an autosave, is that you then control what is saved and what's not saved. Next up, take a look at this image. This is an image that has a PNG or transparent background. When you go to your media tool, so we'll go ahead and do that, and you click on images, what you'll want to make sure that you search for, no matter what it is that you're looking for. If I want to search for an apple, I'm going to type in .png, because I don't necessarily always want a background to my image. I might just want to click on an image and have just that image come up in my presentation. If you are a primary teacher and you're looking at students physically manipulating these objects, you don't want to have a picture that looks like a picture that you took with your camera and printed it on a 4x6. That gives it a background, and sometimes that can really distract, because you might have a bowl and the kids might think it's a bowl as opposed to an apple. But this way you're really being a purist and you're getting just the image. So remember that tip, that .png, that is huge. My students always learn that, and it makes such a difference in the way that they are searching and finding images when they're doing their own sourcing. Next up, Canva. Now, if you're looking at this and you're thinking, wait, I've done Prowise before and I've never seen any fun fonts. Where did you find the fun fonts? Well, this is a little workaround. It's kind of an app smash where I'm using canva.com or Textgraph. You'll see this is Textgraph. This is Canva. This is Canva. And what I'm doing is I'm actually creating the text that I want, and then I just add it in as an image. So I literally drag it in. One thing that's nice about Presenter 10, if you haven't used Presenter 10 much, is that Presenter 10 actually allows you to literally drag things in as an image. So it used to be you'd have to import the images, and that was kind of clunky. Now you just literally grab the image if it's down on the bottom of your computer, or if you have it in your downloads or on your desktop, you drag it in and then you can manipulate it, you can crop it, you can change it. So I'm finding that that's a really helpful tool so that you get kind of that pop that you really want, and you get it to where you feel like it's engaging. And most importantly, it's fun. I mean, we want our kids to think that this is a fun thing, right? And if the text is always the same, I think we lose a lot of kids sometimes. So, and part of it is I'm a creative person. I like creative things. So I think this kind of brings the fun for me as well. Oops, and look, we're on edit. There we go. All right, so let's take a look at some of the places where you could use Prowise in your classroom. So whether you're on campus or you're hybrid or you're remote, these are some ideas of just things that I think are beneficial to multiple grade levels. And you'll see I pulled things from the Prowise community. So many of these things I did not create, but I found them all in the community, and I wanted you to think about, okay, if that's there, what else might be there that I could benefit from? So you're not going and you're not creating everything, but you're benefiting from maybe the ideas that are there, or you're thinking, I could actually use this exact lesson in my class next week. And then you're able to create or to use something without having to create anything, but you do have the ability to modify. So we're looking at Ela Tools at this point, and science and social studies. You'll see that here we've got different links that you can click on that will take you to different things. Same thing here. You can work on learning about solids, liquids, and gases in this location. This one's a great one because you're seeing Ela Tools. They have used a variety of Ela tools to practice blends. So that one's a little bit tiny for you all, but I do think that's a really helpful way to think about, okay, if we're working on a specific spelling pattern, as opposed to assigning 3 times each where they're going to write it and they upload a picture, what if I said, spend 15 minutes working on your blends here? You can do them where you do a word sort. You can do them with memory. You could do them with where there's a word search and you're searching for those words. That might be maybe a more effective digital way of engaging your students today. All right, so moving on to math. It looks like yours has a slight lag, so I apologize if I am speaking before it shows up. So I want to show you some things that were also on the community for math. Now, there was a teacher, or actually I think it was Saugus, the school district, who added these portions here. This is part of partition circles, a math lesson. And what I wanted you to see is that they're really including an anchor chart in the lesson. So they've included enough information to where the student understands what the objective is. They also have a video. Then they've actually shown a diagram. Finally, they're actually showing that you can go into Proconnect, and then the teacher is connecting with the students and the students are connecting with the teacher through the use of Proconnect. And the job is this would be sent out to students, and the student's job is to actually divide this square into 2 equal parts and then send it back to the teacher so the teacher can see if they are making progress on the objective. Okay, so this is where I get excited, because this is where students get to be creators. And I really feel like that's a lot of times what we're missing in what we're trying to do with students. We're asking a lot of them, and that's fine. They can handle a lot. They really can. And they blow us out of the water sometimes with their great ideas. But sometimes we're not giving them a way to show what they understand in a way that is creative, fun, but isn't taking you too much time to put together. Prowise is one of those things that I really think gives you that opportunity to be creative, have fun, but not take too much of your time to facilitate that experience. One way that I love to do this is through the use of this tool, Open Memory. Now you might be thinking, okay, it's memory. Kids have played that when they're in preschool, but this way they make their own. This is not you always putting out memory and saying, okay, match them all up, just do the matching. This is an opportunity for kids to create memory. And I have had kindergarten students who will take math facts and actually create addition problems and subtraction problems with memory, then share it to their classmates so their classmates can then solve their memory game. And that to me is a great way for them to show they understand the concept of addition or understand the concept of subtraction without having to just fill in some sort of worksheet that just where they wrote in the sum or the difference. Here, they're actually creating something that others can benefit from. Another example of that would be typing their words in. So if you're kindergarten, first grade, working on high frequency words or sight words, they can absolutely type in their words and create a word search that then could be solved by a friend. Another example down here would be one that one of my students did in class on our main panel. We were working on space and we were talking about different shapes. And so it was a group of kids who were able to source these images of space and then describe what they're shaped like in the form of this bridge map. So kind of a cool way for them to really think about, okay, we look up our space words, but then we have to apply our thinking in a way beyond, okay, we just found the sun and we're done. So they're really thinking beyond that. And if I were to take it the next step, I would say, okay, now find a picture of a sphere, find a picture of a star, find a banana, and show me how the moon actually looks like a banana. Final thing on this I'd like you to see is this is a great example of the application of content that we've learned in class. This is an example of a student-generated tree map as a homework assignment, something that they literally created at home, pre-COVID, pre-distance learning. They did this at home in order to show their understanding of our geometric solids. And I love the inventive spelling. You can tell this is definitely kid-generated, but what a great job they did. All right, so I feel like this is where we all are right now, is figuring out how to manage our digital classrooms and how to make things work easily, how to help students to become more independent and less dependent on us, and definitely less dependent on their parents, helping them to get back to class on time. So you'll see here, this is my classroom management return to class or independent practice board that I use. It is really simple. And I have intentionally kept it simple because it's what I put together like the first day of school. And we've just kept going with it. And I think if I change it, my students might just lose it on me, because this is something that they count on. They ask for it. So when they are doing their independent practice time and my computer's on and running, and my Zoom is still happening, they are busy watching how much time is left on their timer so that they know how much work time they have remaining. They have their assignments here, and then they also know what time they are returning to class from our independent practice. As simple as this is, it's easy for me to modify every day. I saved it one time. I haven't even saved it again. I don't even save it every day because there's no reason to. So I have it just like this. I modify the assignments for the day. We have one ELA and we have one math during that independent practice time. And this becomes like a little tiny tile up in the top of their computer, or wherever they leave it on their computer screen. And they're able to keep a visual eye on that timer. And if I ever forget to put it up, let me tell you, they let me know that they need the timer up. Just so you can see different ways that you can complete that pie on that timer. Here, different portions mean different amounts of time. And on ours, we start with recess. They get a break first. So that orange is very, very important. They don't want me to ever cut into that recess time. They want their 15 minutes, but then they have 20-minute sections of work time after that. Other timers, just different ways to show the same types of things. You also have a stoplight that you can use for different things. Maybe noise levels getting too high. Everyone needs to go back on mute and you go red. Random selectors is one of my newest finds. And I have to tell you, I am hooked. So you click on the setting, you add all of your students in. It actually saves the setting for you, which is pretty amazing. So it saves your student names. And you click on a box. Let's see, mine's delayed, so it's going to show you in just a second. Okay, there. So a student's name pops up and you have this fun random way, and it actually claps and celebrates. I think it's such a fun way to do a random selector. I mean, you can put your sticks down and you can use this instead. It's just a fun way. There's also a random number selector. So if you're using classroom numbers, great way to use that. So you could have an independent practice board, but you could also have some sort of board that you have up where you're using it for the purpose of random selectors as well. Another thing, or maybe like, let's think about to-do lists. So there's this little tool here that is like a little Post-it that you can put, a digital Post-it, and you could add your to-do list, give them steps that they need to do while they're working independently or while you're working with other students. Some of this seems a little delayed while I am sharing my screen, so bear with me one second. There we go. All right, so now I want to go a little more intensive into kindergarten and first grade. So if you're a kinder or first grade teacher, or you work with those age groups, I just want you to see kind of some of the tools that I would say are my favorite. And you can see it was hard to squeeze them all in because there are so many great tools for this age group. I also included 2 presentations that I've made so that you can see ways that I utilize these tools. So this is actually not a tool. These are just illustrations. They have these number illustrations in there. And this is set to infinite duplication. So when you pull this 4, the 4 actually comes out and will come down to this spot. And when you touch the 1, it will actually come over here. So in Google, you have to duplicate a whole bunch, and then you have to stack them and align them and make sure that they're a nice, neat stack. In Prowise, you literally click on your edit tool and you click on edit again, and you select infinite duplication, and they never run out. So this is such a quick and easy way if you want to have that repetition where you're able to have a tile that repeats or a picture that repeats. This is the way to do it. This is really the tool for you. I've done lots of stacking in Google Slides, and it works. It's just so much more time intensive. So if you're looking for something like that and you're thinking, I want to be able to duplicate things or have my students duplicate to represent their thinking, this is the tool for you there. This one is set up. This is a dice tool, and I love this tool. This is one of my very, very favorite Prowise tools because every time you click on it, the dice will re-roll, and you might get a different number, or you will get a different number for each die. You can also control the number of dice that are included in this tool. So if you just want your students to work with 1, you can do 1. But if you want them to work with 4, you can work with 4. You can also change the colors so that they're not working with more than 1 color. So just take a look at some of these tools, really cool things, and just think about the engagement that you could get from your students if you said, today you're going to work on the beaded plank, or today we're going to work with snap cubes. I want you to show me your thinking with snap cubes. That sort of thing can really elevate their distance learning, their remote learning, their hybrid learning, or just in the classroom, things that they can show you through the use of these tools that maybe they couldn't show you if they were trying to draw a picture on a paper. First grade and kinder, let's take a look at some ELA tools. Now you'll see there are not nearly as many math tools, but these tools are not to be underestimated. They are so, so powerful. This is a great tool here. I absolutely love the letter board. Word magnets are awesome. Character picker, we saw it with the number, and now you can see it with the letters. So you can actually have them do the character picker. They choose a letter, and then they can make a word with that letter. We already talked about the letter selector, and then flashcards are really helpful too. Here's an example of something that I have done with some of these tools. This is one of the tools with letter board, and you can actually physically take these letters and you move. I've added these are tiles that I added on from the illustrations, but they can change mat to hat, and they can physically manipulate here and change them to do some of that phonics work that we all know is so important for our early readers. Second and third grade, these are for you. This I actually pulled from the community. This was on our Prowise community. Well, actually, I should take that back. I think this is on my school community site. It was made by one of my colleagues, but you'll see here she has bar modeling. So she has a word problem, and then she's using bar modeling to show it. Another thing is, what if you have a picture and you ask them to add text as labels? This is something that could be done through Proconnect, but it's also something they could do, and then they could actually save to their digital portfolio for you to check their work. Multiplication is phenomenal through the tools. So if you haven't seen practicing multiplication with the balloons, it's great. And this one is fun, whether you're on the big main panel, the big interactive touch panel, or you're just on an individual device. Individual students can practice multiplication table race on their own devices, and that is great fun. There's also multiplication tables and more multiplication tables, and then CodeWise is a great way to do coding through Prowise Presenter. All right, we're going to keep moving to 4th and 5th grade. Trash ball is a big hit at our school. I know our 4th and 5th grade teachers, I think actually third, 4th, and 5th grade teachers love to use trash ball, but basically all of these balls of trash are links. So everything is linked here so that every time you click on a ball, you get a different math problem. So it makes it a really fun, interactive way for kids to learn. And honestly, the prep for the teacher is not all that involved, especially if you were to take one that is already created like this, then you're just modifying the actual numbers or the word problem, and you're able to modify it throughout time. And maybe every week you play trash ball and the numbers change. Also, citing text evidence is a great thing. I know now we have Cami, so there are great ways to do that. But for some, Prowise, you can do it within another presentation that fits with the things that you're already working on. So maybe you have them do one slide where they're citing text evidence, but then they're using a tool on the next page through Prowise. So it's another way to use a good tool like that. And the highlighter tool is right down here at the very bottom. Another one, angles. Great way to use those. You'll see at the bottom, I just selected quite a few different 4th and 5th grade tools that I thought might be helpful for those 4th and 5th and even maybe 6th grade teachers. All right, so Proconnect is absolutely so much fun for students, and I would like to give you a little heads up about it, and then if we have time, I would like you to actually get to try it. So the way that Proconnect starts is you actually, as the teacher, generate a group. So you go down here to this little Proconnect symbol and you click start. That's how you generate a group, and it gives you a code just like Kahoot. So students, and I have kindergartners who type in their code and they do great in the classroom. Through distance learning, I think most of the parents might be helping them at this point, but that's fine. I mean, I think eventually the kids will get it, but I do feel like most parents are probably assisting because I'm not in the classroom saying, you can do it, and we're not in until you all get in and type those 8 numbers in. But in the classroom, honestly, they really can do it. It connects to all of these different devices. If you're on your phone right now or you have your phone with you, you're welcome to join us when we do connect through Proconnect. You can do it through your phone. You also can do games like Math Race. I think earlier we saw Space Race, where it pushes out a math problem to students. And in that process, it pushes the math problem out to them, and then they are actually competing against their peers, just like in a Kahoot. Now, one thing that's really worth noting here, although you can do some of these activities through Pretend I'm in right, if you want to share Proconnect and you want to share your screen, you'll want to be in Prowise Presenter 9. Working in 9, you'll want to make sure that you create whatever it is that you want to use in Proconnect in 9. That's where share screen still lives. This is an example I'm including for you from my student teacher from last year. She's teaching 3rd grade, and she's been using Proconnect with great success. She taught some lessons and was frustrated. The students she thought they were understanding it better by the slides they were completing and the questions she'd asked in class. But then they took an assessment and she felt like they just weren't where she wanted them to be. So she and I talked about it, and I said, how about Proconnect? She's like, oh my goodness, I had totally forgotten about Proconnect. She tried it and she texted me that day and said, my students love it. And she said, I was able to see instantly their progress. Instantly, I could see success from them. And that is the benefit of Proconnect for sure. Okay, so we're going to look at this. We just talked a little bit about an overview, but here I'm showing you number 1 would be that how you get started. And this is the competition and cooperation part. So those are the tools that I said. Some of them you can use in Presenter 10. You can also use them in Presenter 9. But this is more of that collaboration where students are working together with you or working, maybe competing against each other to see who can finish their multiplication race or their subtraction race the fastest. The second way is the way that I tend to use Proconnect the most, because the tools for competition don't exactly fit with kindergartners, which is what I teach. So I tend to use this share screen because anything I want to push out to them, I can, and then they can add to it. So they can augment their screen, and then I'm able to see student responses instantly. Now, this is also from that great student teacher that I had. She took the carefully made slides by our distance learning team at our district. And she thought, instead of pushing them out as an actual assignment, I'm going to use those slides that they created with word problems and different ways to show their thinking of solving the word problem. I'm going to push those out through Proconnect. And again, she texted me at the end of that day and said, I am blown away, because instead of having all of these, 20 some slide presentations to grade, she said, I was able to give them real-time feedback. Instantly, I was able to say, ooh, you know what? I want you to check your blue box and see if you followed through with the other strategies that you had used, or the same process you had used on the others in the other boxes, or give feedback of, I really like the drawing you drew. It really helps me to see your thinking. So instant feedback, because she was using Proconnect with something that was actually generated by our district. And what a great way to utilize those assignments that are created for you, but maybe save you a little bit on that time that we're all spending grading and prepping. All right. So when I think about Proconnect, I have, of course, recently started using it in a remote setting. I have pictures here of students using it collaboratively, but in a remote setting as a kindergarten teacher, I'm pushing out high frequency words. I can push out numbers, and it can be minute to win it, or, you have 10 seconds, see how fast you can circle the word and see how quickly they can send it to you. Now, I know this is really tiny at the bottom here, but if you look at the bottom of that screen, all of those at the bottom are student responses. And it's like almost real time. I mean, as soon as they click their little camera button, it sends it to me, and it is amazingly fast. So really, really cool to be able to see what your student screens look like when you are working from home, or you're working from an empty classroom, or perhaps you're working in a classroom and trying to keep a safe distance and you want to see what's on their screen. This is absolutely the tool for you. A few tips on that I think are really important. I have learned in the classroom, I always write the number on the board, just because you never know when somebody will somehow close out of Prowise Proconnect completely, and then they'll need to get logged back in and they'll need the code. But since I'm not in a classroom, where do I keep that? So what I've started doing is I snip it. Now I tend to do Proconnect after my independent time. So while I'm on independent, or while my students are doing independent or asynchronous practice, I go ahead and generate the code, snip it, I add it to Google Classroom. Sometimes I even put it in Class Dojo, just to make sure that everyone can get in and I'm not spending my instructional time giving everyone the code. But if you can just post it somewhere, you can even snip it, and then you can put it in your presentation, so that then when you're sharing your screen through Meet or Zoom, they're able to see that code and they're able to use it. But however you want to use that code in order to share it to them, I really encourage you to do that, because it really is helpful for them to be able to do that. Okay, so I know I said I was going to have you guys log into Proconnect, but I'm going to go ahead and keep running. And if we have time at the end, we will. But I'm concerned that I want to get through some other fun things first. And that way, those who already know how to use Proconnect won't need to stay. And those who want me to demo Proconnect with them can stay at the end, and we'll go ahead and do that. So on this slide, you're getting an example of how I would set up a flipped classroom, kind of choose your own learning adventure activity. So, students would be challenged to choose one of these linked paths in order to learn, explore, apply, and then come back together and share what they learned. And that way, not everyone is choosing the exact same thing. You could assign it, but you could create the whole thing and then you could assign it to certain groups, but you also could just say, okay, pick the ecosystem that really is the most interesting to you. Then come back together as a class and discuss the things that they learned. Once you click on this can take you to multiple other pages with different links and videos. You can link to Discovery Ed. You could link to so many, any web link you'd like. You could do ABCI. You could do, I'm trying to think, I'm blanking on the other one I was thinking of, but plenty of other different things that you can link to. Any of those learning sites that you think, this is where I go to find great activities, that's the kind of thing that I would link there. All right, so this is what I really wanted to make sure I could get to, because I know that many teachers are wondering, okay, so these are great things, but where do I save them? How does this work with Google Classroom? So if you all are here, then you are getting more information than the last one a month ago, because I made sure that I added more to it with a little more focus on Google Classroom integration. So it's kind of an app smash, and you'll see we'll get to that. What I have done is I have created a shared class account. So shared class account, and my students log in all with the same shared class account that I manage. So I used a Gmail. I just created a Gmail. Ours is something to do with our class name, and they all type in, they have their labels. I actually gave them little labels that they put on their devices. They log in with that email, and then they type in the password. Now, word of advice, keep them simple. If you're asking kinder, first, second grade to type in their email and their passwords, keep it really simple for them so it's easy. I would not be super complex with your login. It really doesn't matter. It's whatever you choose to use, but don't give them your own personal login, because first of all, they don't want to type in your teacher email. But secondly, you don't want them to get into your account and change your work. Like I said earlier, you have that save feature where once you click save, it saves it. You can't undo it. So if they actually save over your work, you lose it. So word of advice, I kind of call it a dummy account, but basically it's just an additional account for our classroom. It's my specific shared class account. That way I have a different portfolio that I've created for each student. It's just their name. You could do it with their name. You could do it with their number, whatever works for your class. Now they have the opportunity, and this is my actual student portfolio right now, or at some point, this was my actual student portfolio, things that they had saved. They have the option of saving their work, or there might be times where I assign something and I say, this is really important. You need to save this in your portfolio so that I can see the work that you've done. I also can save things like here I have Would You Rather. We've been doing Would You Rathers where students get to, with word magnets, where students get to actually create their own Would You Rather that then we as a class debate about and discuss and work, and everybody gets to vote and place I place their magnet where in whichever location or which other item they'd like to eat or drink. And what's cool about it is it's student generated. So I give them the template here. They click on it, they add their pictures, and then they click save as, and they're able to save it so that the whole class can benefit from their great Would You Rather ideas. All right, so Google Classroom. Now, I think it would be wonderful if Google Classroom and Prowise worked together and we just had like a little Google Classroom button and you could push it, but it's not there yet. Maybe someday. But at this point, I really think it's more of an app smash. So we're looking at Prowise Presenter absolutely has tools that are worthwhile for our students. So if that's the case, how can we make this work with digital, remote, hybrid learning, on-campus learning? How can we do this? And something that I figured out long before our remote learning experience was that I would push out the link. You'll see at the very bottom here, I would push out the link into Google Classroom. Now today, my explanations are much longer. I used to basically put no explanation because I was just using Google Classroom as a way to show my students, this is where the Prowise link is. Click on it, and then when you've completed it, turn it in so that I know you've done the task. We're doing the same thing now. Of course, this is one of their independent assignments, but this is an example of something that I'm assigning to them asynchronously. So today, this is literally today's assignment that they did. They did Prowise letter C memory. So we use that great open memory tool. They were matching words that begin with the letter C to the picture that matches the words. You'll see in my list here of their assignments for today, here it was, it just comes up as Prowise. I make sure that I have some little icon that always kind of fits so that they know Prowise has that pencil symbol, and we do like a blue diamond with it too. Just so that when they see that, they know it's a cue. Oh, that means Prowise. I know I need to log into Prowise. When they click on this link, then they have to go back to that classroom account and they do have to type in the login. Unfortunately, it does not save the login at this point. I'm hoping at some point as 10 continues to be developed. They've made such great strides and I really love everything that 10 has. But it is one feature that I really am hoping that it will save the email when you're interacting with a browser. Currently, it does not. It might do it for a little while, but then the next, like probably the next day, they'll have to retype in the email. So keep them simple, but that's how they log in. And it is working. So I just want you to see, this is today. Literally, this little boy sent me this picture. His mom sent me this picture today because they were so pleased with the progress he made on his letter C memory. And it actually, you can't see it in his screen, but when you solve the memory, it actually celebrates you and it's like a big deal. So he was pretty excited. And I think it's just such a great example of student engagement, and really creating those memory activities are not very labor intensive or time intensive for me, but it is so worthwhile to have something that is positive and productive as far as that time that they spend together, or the time that a student is spending without me in their asynchronous learning. All right, so here are some examples of things that we could build as our own. I'm going to walk you through really quickly the tools that you could use to do this. And actually, I didn't tell you what tool I'm looking for. It says go to tools, go to mathematics, find the multiplication tool. So we're going to go ahead and go to tools, and I'm just actually going to type it in. I don't want to look for it, so I'm just going to go ahead and type in multiplication. And my tool should come up. Oops, until you misspell it, then you have a problem. Sorry, typing too quickly for you all. Let me go ahead and I'll just click on it since I saw it on the screen. So the multiplication tool comes right in, and I can resize it. It's a little big, so I unlock with my edit tool, resize, and now I'm looking at, okay, I can create a fact. I can go 2, oops, go back to touch. I can go 2 times 5 is equal to, so then I can actually type here. This is a text box. They click on text. They can type their text right here to show their thinking. So they can do 2 times 5, then they can do 5 times 2. They also have the ability, like we said before, they have the ability to self-check. They can check their work, okay? And really, even if they're checking their work without even thinking about it, they're getting a visual, they're able to type it, and they're able to do the entire fact and actually read it back and practice it. So one great way to just use a simple tool. Another one would be the language selector. I'm sorry, the letter selector. So we're going to go ahead and do letter selector. And up will pop our, sorry, I feel bad there's a lag for you guys. There we go. So the letter selector comes up, and there it is. The letter selector will come up. And this is such a great tool because they can click on this and it literally feels like they are flipping through a flip book. They can flip backwards, they can flip forwards. Now this is one new thing in 10 that I think is awesome. You click on this plus sign and you can type in a new word longer than the 3 letters that they give you here, which I think is terrific, because if you have somebody, or if you tell them to do short A words, they might want to do a short A word that is longer than 3 letters if they know it. And why not? What a great way to differentiate, to give them that opportunity. All right, one more was that open memory. I'm going to walk you through that very quickly just so that you can see. We're right here. This is what you click on for open memory. And I want you to see how it's set up. You can start with media, where you're matching just pictures. You can also do a combination of media and text. So when I do those beginning letter sounds, I do a picture. So I do an apple, and then I literally type apple. And I might do an acorn, and then I literally type acorn. Okay, so that would be the way that I would set that up. But you also have the ability to do high frequency words. Let's say you're working on the word here. Now you'll notice that right now it has the 2 words that are exactly the same. You can also do it broken to where they would be different. So if there was a reason why you wanted to have the 2 pieces of text different, like maybe you're saying you want to match a letter with a word that begins with that letter, you could do that with the broken. But if it's linked like this, then the 2 words will be the same. You type it 1 time. You literally make your memory game by typing the word one time. You can control the number of sets. You can go really, really big. If you're working with younger kids, go a lot smaller. You can also control the amount of time that the cards show. So lots of great things that you can do on that. Once you have it all filled, you click on start and it will allow you to go ahead and start the game. You can also control the number of players that you use or that you have playing. All right, so we made it through everything. I'm sorry, I went a couple minutes long on that, but we are now at a point where Kate's going to go ahead and share some cool stuff with us about the Grant Assistance Program.
Sure, thank you so much. ELB has started a grant assistance program, which we call GAP. And we created, what GAP is it is a free assistance program. So we will do the whole hunting and gathering for you. We will find the grant and we will write the grant for you. Why do we want to do this? Well, as we are working with our customers, we have been seeing that the school funds are going elsewhere. There are no school funds, or teachers, you are spending so much more out of pocket than you have probably in years past. We want to be sure to help you with that. We want to be sure to help find that perfect grant for you and help with that funding. We do that by meeting with you, getting to understand what your needs are, and then we have our GAP team who will research grants that fit your situation. We will then meet with you. We have a grant writer who will do the writing of the grant for you, check in with you. It's very collaborative. So we're very excited to kick this off. We just got word that one of our grants up in Illinois has been won, and we are super excited for that center. So we are looking forward to many, many more coming. That being said, we do have another grant assistance or another webinar that will be focusing in on our GAP program, and that will be happening towards the end of the month. So be on the lookout for that on the e-invites as well. With that, if you have any questions about the GAP team, right there by number 3 at the bottom, it does say that you can email grants@elbglobal.com, and that's a great way to get that started as well. So and again, it's a completely free program. We just want to make sure that we're getting the funds into the hands of the teachers in schools. At this time as well, we do have, as we're wrapping up, we do have a form that we would love for you to fill out and complete. Once you have filled out and completed this form, I'm putting over into the chat box. Oops. Sorry, Camille, I jumped the gun on that, but I promise I'll come right back to that. In the chat box, we do have a form. This form will give us a little bit more information about how we can best support teachers. Also, after you've completed it, you will be entered to win a $50 Amazon gift card. I don't know about you, but Amazon and I are pretty tight right now. We're really close. So we figured that other people probably could benefit from an Amazon gift card as well. So we do encourage you to please fill that form out. Camille is sharing right now some of her resources, which are fantastic. So in the chat box as well, I'm going to put, Camille, is that all right if I put the link to that resource?
Yes, please.
Perfect.
That'd be great, thank you.
Yes, so you'll have that second link right there, which is the little infographic that she has of the resources as well. So it's fantastic. I was playing with that earlier today, Camille, and using the QR code and just messing around with it. So she did a fantastic job.
Well, and that's one thing I didn't cover is Canva Pro is free for educators. Now, I first was going to actually pay for it because I found it and thought it was so great and was so helpful, something that I use honestly every single day to push out information to my students through Class Dojo, because you can create a little square that is really, really kind of just user-friendly for parents with information. I do it for a supply list every day. And I thought, okay, it's probably worth it with all that we're going through with remote learning. And then I found Canva Pro is free for educators. So I'm giving you the QR code because I don't want you to pay for it or think that you have to use the free version. You get the Pro version, which means you get all of the cool little pictures and things that I've used here. This was all created on Canva just with a template that they had. I added colors. I used their images, and it's just such a great resource. So if you haven't checked out Canva yet, I highly encourage you to check it out.
Who doesn't like free? This is
Right.
fantastic. Free
Exactly.
grants, free resources. So
And Kate,
much
I
free.
did offer for anybody who really would like to walk through Proconnect, I'd love to walk through it with you. I just knew that I was going to take a little longer today because I included more on Google Classroom. So those who want to stay, Kate, if you're okay to stay for a little while, I can stay for a little while and we can walk through Proconnect together. We will switch to Presenter 9 to do that, but I really appreciate all that came today. You guys were a great, great audience. I'm sorry, I talked a lot and talked really, really fast, but down at the bottom, it says, reach out to me. Feel free to. I'm on Twitter. I have a teacher Instagram page, and you can reach me by email. And when you guys have that link in the chat, go ahead and use that. But feel free to reach out to me anytime. I really, really enjoy working with Prowise Presenter, and I'm happy to troubleshoot things with you or brainstorm ideas. So feel free to reach out.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
All right.
As Camille mentioned, if you want to stick around and walk through some Proconnect, we can absolutely do that.
Yep. I'm going to pull up Prowise Presenter 9 so that we can go ahead and do the shared screen portion. We may have a problem. I may have to switch to my other computer though. Kate, does it matter? Am I able to switch to a different? Okay, good. Sure. I have it open on my other computer. I just want to make sure I can share from there. Okay. All right, so you're going to see me switch. Actually, you're going to see, I probably will switch my camera for you guys as well in just a moment. This is how I teach, with two computers going at the same time. All right, let me go ahead and turn my camera on so you guys aren't thinking that I've disappeared. Okay, here I am twice, and I'm going to go ahead. So in order to do Proconnect, I'm going to go down to this symbol right here. Do you guys all see that symbol, or am I sharing? Good. So looking at that symbol at the bottom, and when I do that, I can click on Start. And again, anybody who feels like they don't need Proconnect, feel free to leave. You don't need to stay. I know your time is valuable, but if this is something that is of interest to you, go ahead and stick around. We'll work through any questions you might have. So this is your group code, and where you guys are going to want to go to is go to proconnect.com. So you on your phone, on your computer, you can just type in www.proconnect.com, and it will take you to Prowise Proconnect.
There's also a link in the chat box if you wanted to copy that as well.
Perfect. Thank you. All right. So go ahead and get that link clicked in. And when you get into it, you'll see that it starts spinning for you. When it's spinning, that means you're engaged, but it means I have not initiated the Proconnect session just yet. So if it's spinning, that means you've done the right thing. My students get really upset that they get in and then it's spinning and they think I'm not letting them in. But really, the reality of it is it just means that there are other kids that I'm still waiting for. I'm able then to, as the teacher, to click on, I can put the group code away, and I can click on participants and I can see who's in it. Are we having trouble getting in? Hold on, let me make sure that this is working. I can see what I'm sharing, but I'm not seeing anybody get into it. Are you guys having trouble getting in? I didn't have chat pulled up to see.
I haven't seen anything come
All
into chat, but I was able to get in, and it looks like Michelle was as well.
Okay, so be sure to use the link that she said, because you do need the link from the chat. It's connect.prowise.com. So if you type that one in, I know when I copied the chat, I got way more than I needed, but now I'm doing connect.prowise.com, and it's okay. Now we're starting to get a bunch of you guys in. Awesome. So that's one thing that's really great for you with remote learning, especially, or if you're hybrid, or if you're on classroom and you're being extra careful to not go around students, you can see how these names pop through for you, and you can look at your list and say, you know, I'm missing a few kids. I'm concerned about this. You can follow through with them by naming them off. Say, do you need me to share the code again? Let me go ahead and I'll click back to it. I'll put the code back up so you can get in. That way they know that you're aware of whether they're in or not. So then we can go back to Proconnect, and I can click on this shared screen. The shared screen feature is what we were talking about earlier, where I put something out to you and then you can interface with me. I also could click on tools here, and these are where you'll find those tools that I was saying were probably more appropriate for second grade and up. There is Monkey Swing, Space Race, Mice Race. These are all great math tools, but they also have a great mind map and word cloud tool. So great things to do. You can also kind of filter it more so with the ones that are developed for collaboration, and then the three that are developed more for that competition. And it's a good kind of healthy competition, similar to Kahoot, where the kids are competing but having a good time. One thing you could definitely do before you get started, this is just the start of one of my presentations. So before the kids, or while the kids are getting into Proconnect, we might go through and practice with sight word cards, where we actually have the high frequency words flashing before them. We practice them as a group, and then we go on to the next page, where as a kindergarten teacher, this is where I would be sharing something like this, where they have words that they are needing to know. And I say, okay, in a moment, the word is going to pop through to you. I want you to circle the word like. And then they are supposed to circle the word like as quickly as they can. So if you are on that and you want to go ahead and try it, I'm also going to show you how I can click on live connections, and I can see live who is working on their device. I can see who's circling, and I can compliment Jen, and I can say, Jen, you did such a great job. I see that you circled like. And Christina, thank you so much. Good work. And then I might say, you know, Denise or Ladine, you use the highlighter tool. That's awesome. Way to use that tool. And I might say, Denise, which tool are you thinking you might use? Or Michelle. So you can kind of go through that. And I don't know if you can tell, if you're able to see that on your screen while you're working. It is amazing to me to be able to do this in remote learning. The fact that I can compliment you in an instant, or follow up if it looks like maybe you're struggling on something. I can say, reach out to you. That is something that we can't seem to do through any other programs, where I can actually see what students are doing on their devices. Also, please note, it said received. I can see at the bottom who's received, and even if I'm sharing my screen, you probably are having a hard time seeing the names that I've received. And I like that about that, whether we're in the classroom or working virtually. I think it's really helpful for that. So here, this is another example of a way that we could do Proconnect, where now I'm saying, okay, this is a response to literature. Let's count our characters. How many characters are in the story? Now I want you to write the numeral here. So go ahead and do that again, and I'll resend this to you. Oops, you guys can't see that. Hold on. It's resent to you, so I'll go ahead and say that. How many characters are in this story? Please write your total in the white box, where the yellow arrow is pointing to the white box where I want you to write your number. And then I can click on received, and I can see if I've received any yet. I can also click on live to see what you guys are doing. And I can compliment those who are circling. I can say, oh, great job. It looks like Nicole is doing a great job. I saw that you wrote the number, but Nicole, will you please circle each of those characters so I can see your counting and see your thinking? All right. And I can compliment others who are doing a good job. Jen, it looks like you've completed your task. Make sure you send that to me. Make sure you click on that camera to send it to me so that I can see your work. Ooh, Ladine, you got fancy and went with calligraphy. Excellent job. So these are the kinds of this is the kind of feedback that I feel like you can give in real time that is really cool. I mean, how great that you can talk about characters and have them practice writing numbers all in one moment. And literally all I did was search for a picture of a book. Like, it wasn't very complex, very simple work. Here, I'm going to resend this one to you guys, and you'll note it doesn't change for you until I push resend. But in my classroom, and also through distance learning, I've noticed there is an audible noise that comes from kids when that screen changes. So when I change whatever is on their screen, there's an audible, like they're excited to get started. And that to me is maximum student engagement. So here I could say, where does the story take place? And I didn't give you specific instructions this time. So I might just say, all right, send me your answers, and I want to see what you guys are showing me. Did I send it to you guys? Did you guys get it? Looks like it. But now you're noticing, I bet some of you tried to move them, didn't you? Now here's the problem. In Proconnect, it's a fixed screen, which I love because I don't want them moving things around in this format. But all the benefits of Prowise and Prowise Presenter, where you can manipulate things, those are not the way that Proconnect works. Now, I always intentionally design my Proconnect lessons knowing that. I just figure, okay, that's a parameter. I can't move it. That's okay. But Kate's been able to circle, Ladine's been able to circle, and Ladine figured out how to use the text tool to also type in her answer. Nicole is masterfully writing hers with her finger, hopefully on a touch screen, something like that. But excellent job. That is a great way to use that tool. Notice I'm using the live connections, so I'm not just looking at what you guys are sending me. I'm literally clicking on those live connections because I want to know what you are working on. And maybe there's that student who really doesn't often engage. I want to be able to see what's going on and then maybe provide assistance where is needed. Another example, I won't make you all solve this, but I want you to just see, I'll send this to you. So as we go up to upper grades, I want you to see the simplicity of this so that you can see that there is virtually no prep. This is one of those almost spontaneous. If you had this template ready to go, you could change your numbers every day and do a quick math problem where that they work out, and they have to show 2 ways to solve. But there's something very simple about it. You're really not doing much prep, but you're getting a lot of practice and a lot of engagement. All right. Okay, so this is one of my favorite ones to share with you guys. I'm going to just go ahead and send it. Don't do anything yet, but I just want you to see what I'm talking about as I talk about it. So remember when I talked about infinite duplication, these are all set on infinite duplication. So when you go to edit, you click on the edit tool and you click on edit again, you see infinite duplication. And what that means is once I set this up one time, I can literally go here and I can duplicate my page. So this is duplication, page duplication. I can duplicate my page a whole bunch of times. Okay, I just duplicated a whole bunch. I don't even care how many right now. I just duplicated some so I can use them later. And now I can think, okay, I'm going to give you guys a math problem. I'm going to put these 2 quarters here and 2 pennies. Then when I send my screen to you, again, it changes for you, right? And you're able to see the math problem that's been sent to you. You can respond to it. You could write out 25 and 25. You can make this into a number bond and show that 25 and 25 make 50. You could show the 2, and you could say, okay, it's 52 cents, and you write your total here. But then on the next page, what if I realized, whoa, that was way more simple than it needed to be for you all. You guys are ready for much bigger amounts of money to work with. Currency is part of your skill set. So now I might put the dollar bill in. I might also put these quarters in, and I might give you all of the different currency just so that you can tell me what your total amount is here. When I do that, now watch, it's going to change for you. But all I was doing was touching the coin each time, and then it was able to go into that tray. So really, really simple concept, really easy to do, but you are getting instant practice for students. So don't worry, I'm not expecting you to count the money. But I just think that that's a really good example of how you can do money. You can do a lot with fractions where they show you what the total value would be. They cannot manipulate. Now on your screens, if you try to move your money, you can't move it, but you can add to it, which is such a great thing for you to be able to do at this point, because you could definitely can write on here and you can write the value. So you could actually, as a student, you could go on and write, okay, so this is $1. And then I know 4 quarters is also $1. So I might just go $1 again. Okay. And they can actually start totaling this up. Then they could actually do a running total on the side. So that's kind of a quick overview of Proconnect. Are there any questions on Proconnect that I might be able to answer? I'm happy to work through some of that with you if you have something you'd like to see, or if you guys want to play one of the games. Anyone have anything? Are you guys good? You feel like you had your fill?
Camille, I know. Sorry.
Frozen? Yeah.
I haven't been working on Google Meet for a while. I had to find the button to unmute.
That's okay. It's new for me too.
You had said earlier the math tools, the multiplication games. Yeah. I've only used those on the big Prowise, but you said they can use those on their individual laptops at home.
Yes.
You can print out those games.
Yeah, the web-based now. Kate can answer that further if I'm not answering it fully. Kate, I'm correct in that, right? They can use those. They're no longer like a tabletop tool that can only work on the interactive panels. They can work, it's all app-based, so you absolutely can work from the app, or I should say from the web-based program.
So how would you push those out?
Okay, so I'm on it right now. You can see where I'm going. I'm going to the media library, and I would be going to then tools. And then at the very bottom, you're going to see touch table tools.
Okay.
You see that? So what I would probably do is I would create a presentation that has that tool in it. And then I would share that presentation to students through Google Classroom. So let's say you want to do multiplication table race. So I would click on that, and you'll see it's going to load on my screen right now. And I'm just in Google. So you'll see I'm just in Google, and that's the tabletop program came up just like it did on your panel, right? And then they're able to play it here. And I think you can decide, I think here we have to decide how many players. Is that right, Kate? So if I just decide on one player, sorry, this is not one I play with a whole lot, as you can imagine, in kindergarten. But then, so you're going to click on what you want them to do. If you want them to practice once, they click on that, and then they click start. So on their device, they're going to look for their car, and they're going to work on practicing. And to me, this is, if you push this out and it's just that tool is on that presentation, this is going to be something that they're excited to do.
Okay.
This would be one of those where you would have to set it up ahead of time. It wouldn't be a Proconnect session, just to make sure that was clear. Yeah.
So
yes, I agree.
Okay. So for them to play multiple players,
they could not play multiple players. I don't think that there's any way to do that.
Okay.
But there is a way to do Proconnect where they're doing the multiple players. I'll show you that part. Were you talking about these multiplication tools, or were you talking about the Proconnect tools?
No, that one, the tabletop racers.
Okay. So yeah, tabletop would have to be individual, but Proconnect, you can go, let's see, we're actually in a different Proconnect. Hold on, let me click to this one. When we're in Proconnect, I can go to the tools, and then we could do space race, and then you guys are going to see it come up on your devices. Let's do table sums with twos, and we're going to click start. Okay, so the questions are going to come up to you, and you'll see how this works for your students. This is something you can do that is absolutely synchronous. This is your synchronous learning for sure. So you guys are answering those questions, and I'm busy watching your little rockets shoot up. Those who aren't participating, they just sit at the bottom, and that's totally fine too. I mean, especially in this case, but as students go, I mean, maybe there's a student who walked away and they're not participating, and you can follow up with them later on. But this is the thing I would use in synchronous learning. But then the other tool that I would use would be the tabletop. I would use that for sure as asynchronous, something where you put it out in a presentation and you say, here's this, game I want you to play. You're going to feel like you're parking cars in a parking space, but you have to match the right number, the right product. And I would definitely model it before you do, because it is a little funky, that whole moving from the tabletop tools. It's a little different dynamic for them. They might get stuck and not know how to get out. I don't know if you guys noticed that when I was navigating from it. I think I already got out of it, but it is slightly different just because when you're in that tool, it actually kind of takes over your whole screen. See how it takes over the screen, and there's not a way to go back into your Prowise presentation. So in order to get out, you click on the little hamburger menu. Oh, actually that put me in full screen. Now to get out, you click on your hamburger menu, and then there's a door to exit. So that's something that I would definitely model for students so that they know how to get out. Otherwise, they're gonna be like, I couldn't get out. I got stuck in it and I couldn't get out and I couldn't do anything. But you do have control of like sound here too, which is good. So, but to leave it, that's all they need to do. Super simple to get out, but they might need that reminder because that would be a hard one. And Kate, have you I've never tested it in a presentation, but will that tool save in a presentation for her?
It will not. You'll have to instruct them how to get to it.
That makes sense.
Just because it does take that whole screen takeover.
Does that make sense, Christina, that you'd have them, you'd say your instructions are go to the media library, go to tools, touch table tools, and then select multiplication table race. So you could have that either in your Google Classroom or you could have it in a Prowise presentation, but you can't actually save the touch table tool in your presentation. All the other tools do save in your presentation, but touch table tools are like opening another completely different type of window. So that's a little different.
So they're actually going and choosing this. I don't send it to them. Okay.
Right. Well, for just specifically for the touch table tools.
Okay.
But for all the other tools, I would build them into the presentation so that they could see. Like, I think I have an example. Yeah, this is an example right now of one of my memory activities. They have a video. This is something that my students did a few weeks ago. Let's see. So here's like the memory game. When you click start, all the cards come up like this, and they're able to flip them and see if they can make their matches. So that's kind of an example of using a tool, and you could use a tool that's appropriate to your grade level, and it does retain this, most of them, many of them, I should say, not all math. I think some of the math do not retain content. Like if you set up numbers, like a number line does not retain the numbers on there, but you could put a number line tool in so that they could show their thinking on that number line tool. And then I can add videos. So really quite simple, but you can see how you could use that. These are all linked things. These are just things I thought I would show you just in case people are interested in word magnets and things like that. This is another one I didn't get to earlier, but I have been using this for my calendar. It's been a great way to do the calendar. We recently started throwing a ring. We throw a ring around today's date, and sometimes we'll throw a ring around all the other dates that we've done for the month and count through all of them. But it's a great way to do the daily calendar. And each day I don't save it, so it doesn't show what we did the day before. We can write all over it. It starts all over again, brand new. We can show our thinking here. This is set for infinite duplication. So every time I touch a pumpkin or jack-o'-lantern, I get another one, and we can represent a group of 10. So we do that there. We can then represent our ones on this side. We can ring around today's date again. So just kind of a way to do like everyday counts or do your calendar system, but using the tools. Like these are all part of the illustrations that are in Prowise Presenter. And so these dominoes are a great way to represent the date if you're trying to show what the date is, to do it that way. Anything else? I have my magic tunnel if you guys want to see one more thing. I think some of you all, I know some of you from my district, so you've seen this, but if you haven't seen it, this is the magic tunnel, kind of the famous magic tunnel. I use this one for phoneme substitution. Let's see if this one looks like it. We'll do this one. This is a lot of fun because it's really simple in design, but it gets a huge wow factor from the kids. So you say, okay, I want you to substitute the initial sound in run to have a new initial sound, a new beginning sound of, and so run changes to fun. And then they can check their work by clicking here to see if it makes sense. So we're going to change bad to have a beginning sound of s. Bad changes to and sad. Let's check and see if our work is right. So the nature of this is really, it's just two different colors in one text box, but it gives that effect of magic. So this is one where intentional design makes all the difference. If you're thinking you want to do something like this, be sure that you are intentional in your layering. Otherwise, it's kind of a nightmare. So think about your two colors. I like to have the little tunnel in the center because it makes it, just gives it a better reveal. Otherwise, they kind of see things and this hides it well. And then it just gives a lot of pop. But these, you want to make sure you're locked. We haven't really talked about that, but these are all locked. That's one of the features of Prowise that I think helps you, especially with younger kids or with something like this, beyond what Google Slides will do, because you can't lock things in Google Slides in the same way. You can do a master slide, but this is different because this is not on the back side. This is actually on the top, but it's all locked. So all of these have that lock. So they're all locked as one set, and then nothing gets damaged as I'm sliding my words across. And then these are those building blocks. So anyhow, I think I've shown you all of my tricks. Hopefully that was informative. Feel free to reach out to me if there's anything I can do to be of any assistance. I'm not sure which camera is picking me up. I think I had two. All right. Well, thank you. I appreciate you guys coming.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing all of your great information, Camille.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, and we will see you next time.